What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and the 2020 college football season is now over. It is officially time to look ahead to 2021. Never too early to make a top 25 poll, but this one, maybe it really is, because this is a way too early top 25 poll for 2021. We don't even know what the rosters are going to look like at this point. Still decisions to be made about the NFL. The transfer portal is blowing up. There are transfers everywhere. The recruiting classes are not complete. So when we say way too early, it's too early for a reason. This is not going to be a very accurate top 25 poll, probably, but it's our best guess at what the top 25 could potentially look like based on just kind of what we think is going to happen this off season. And this morning I saw there were a bunch of way too early top 25 polls already out. I looked at some of those. Some of them I thought were pretty good. Some of them I had some major question marks about, but I actually did my poll. I put my poll together yesterday before I saw any of these way too early top 25 polls. So rest assured that I was not influenced by any other top 25 polls. This is 100% my top 25 poll. And I, again, have a lot of research to do on these teams, so my top 25 will change. We do a way too early top 25 poll. Then after the recruiting classes, before spring practice really starts, we do a pre-spring top 25 poll. After spring practice, I do a post-spring top 25, and then also a preseason top 25 poll right before the season starts. So we will be seeing, we'll monitor that and see how it changes throughout the off season. If you're new to the channel, you have no idea about what we do here, because I know this is a video that usually attracts a lot of people that are maybe not subscribers. 5,000 subscribers here, but this is something I've actually been doing for several years. You can go to our main channel where we have over 40,000 subscribers, a mix of gaming content, of college football content over the years. Decided to make a new channel just for college football content a couple of months ago, and again, we're already up over 5,000 subscribers, and you can expect all kinds of breakdowns all off season long. The college football videos never stop here at SG1 Sports, so get ready to be prepped for the 2021 season. We'll have all kinds of videos to kind of break down the rosters and show you what these teams are going to look like and make predictions and look at the schedules and just all sorts of things that we do every off season. If you wonder about my track record with Alabama winning last night, I have now correctly picked in the preseason, the national champion 3 of the last 5 years. I've been doing this for 5 years. 3 of those 5 years, I correctly picked the national champion in the preseason. You can also go back and look at my predictions from this past year. They were very accurate. I would put my preseason predictions up there with anyone else, any other preseason magazine or anything like that, except for the Big Ten. I have struggled to predict the Big Ten, and this year was even tougher than normal because it was crazy in the Big Ten. So outside of the Big Ten, I think my predictions have been really, really accurate over the years. But again, this year, the Big Ten, I should say, the one area where I've struggled. So keep that in mind. But let's get into the top 25 here again. It's way too early. And it was interesting because I went through the conferences and I picked out the teams. I just went through each conference, said, okay, these teams are top 25 worthy, and made a list. And normally I do that, and I go through all the conferences, and I have more than 25 teams. This year, there were a few group of 5 teams that I had to trim off of that list, but all of the Power 5 teams that I put on my initial list made it into the top 25. So I think this is the most clear-cut top 25 poll that I've ever done this early. Yes, it will change. There may be some teams that can sneak into here, but I feel pretty good about these 25 teams. Again, some group of 5 teams that maybe will make it in here. UCF is a team that I wanted to maybe put in, Louisiana, but I'll have to do a little bit more research on those teams. So let's get it started now. And again, when you're way too early like this, I'm always going to lean towards those Power 5 teams just because the talent is going to be there for those rosters. So 21 through 25 here. I've got TCU coming in at number 25. I had a pretty good year this year. Middle of the pack in the Big 12. The Big 12 conference, it turned out to be pretty good. If you look at the bowl games, Max Duggan should be back. It was a pretty young team this past year. So I expect TCU to be up there in the top half of the Big 12. I think they're going to be pretty good. Gary Patterson has not had a lot of success the last few years at TCU, but I think that's going to turn around. I think they'll have a pretty good year, but maybe not enough to really contend in the Big 12. Ole Miss, I have at number 24. Lane Kiffin getting it done on the offensive side of the ball for the Rebels, but their defense actually showed up against Indiana. And if that is a sign of things to come with an offense that we know it's going to be really explosive, Ole Miss could be a very dangerous team. Matt Corral will be back. Yes, they lose some weapons on offense, but still, there is enough there for me to think that this will be a top 25 team. Number 23 is Penn State. Horrible start to the year in 2020, but they really finished strong. Won, I think, their last 4 or 5 games in a row there. I think they just had to kind of learn to play without some of their stars, like Micah Parsons and Journey Brown. I mean, these were great players that they expected to have going into the season. And I think it just was a little bit of an adjustment. Sean Clifford really had to settle in. He was awful at the beginning of the year. But I think they have some momentum, and this is not going to be a contender maybe in the Big Ten, but I think a team that will at least be better and to be probably a top 25 team. USC at number 22. They lose a couple of really great receivers, some key players on defense. But Keaton Slovis is back, and the Pac-12 doesn't appear to be a conference that's going to be great next year once again. So I think they right now are probably the favorites in the Pac-12 South. I don't have Arizona State on here, but that's a team to keep an eye out for. Jaden Daniels will be back. They've kind of started building something there. I know they didn't play many games this year, so because of that, it was hard to really know what we were going to get out of them. But that's a team that didn't make my list, but it was a team that I at least kind of thought about putting on there. So Arizona State and USC might be the favorites in the Pac-12 South. UCLA also look like they're maybe heading in the right direction. And then I have Northwestern at number 21. Of course, they won the Big Ten West this year. Peyton Ramsey, I have not heard if he's coming back or not. That'll be big. They lost some key guys on defense, so it'll be a good team, but I don't know if they're going to be able to replicate this year's success and win the Big Ten West again. But keep an eye out for Northwestern again. They could do it again. I think the Big Ten West is going to be wide open, and like I said, I've done a horrible job predicting this conference. Maybe I can do better this year. Maybe this will be the year. All right, 16 through 20. I have Miami at number 20. De'Aaron King coming back is big for them. Lost a couple of big-time pass rushers on the defensive line. That's going to hurt. It's a team that I think will be pretty good, but it's still, I don't think they're anywhere near Clemson's level. I don't think they challenge in the ACC, but they should put together another top 25 season. Texas at number 19, a team with a lot of young talent. They're going to be young this year, but again, they've got some really good players. We saw that in the bowl game. They could be a dangerous team. It just really depends on Steve Sarkisian. How does it work out with him and this Texas team? If they can gel right away, Texas could be dangerous because they're going to have the top or first or second most talented roster probably in the Big 12. So keep an eye out for them. A surprise team potentially, but it's kind of a high-risk, high-reward type team. A team that could surprise and be really good, but at the same time, it's a team that I could see really struggling because of their youth. Very interesting to see what Texas is going to do. Oklahoma State, number 18. No Tylan Wallace, no Chuba Hubbard. You could say, well, this team's going to take a big drop, but they didn't have those guys in the bowl game, and they did pretty well against Miami. They won that game. Also, they did lose some guys on defense, though. That's what's probably going to hold them back and keep them away from contending in the Big 12, but still, I think this will be a good team. Coastal Carolina, number 17, Grayson McCall back at quarterback. They do have some losses. Their best player on defense and also the top rusher going to be gone more than likely. Again, some of these decisions we don't know about yet, and that's why, again, this is called a way too early top 25 poll. It's too early to be doing this, but we're doing it anyways just because it's fun to do. And then Iowa at number 16 finished the year really strong. Would have liked to have seen them play in a bowl game against the team outside of the Big Ten. Would have been a lot of fun, but I think there is enough there. There are some young pieces. Quarterback will be back. Iowa should be a contender in the Big Ten West. 11 through 15, Oregon is number 15. This was, I believe, I heard this was the youngest team in college football last year, so they're going to be a talented roster, definitely the most talented roster in the Pac-12. They'll have a little bit more experience this year. Oregon should be a pretty good football team and probably going to be the favorite in the Pac-12. It's kind of like Texas. It's a team that maybe could surprise and be really good, or they might struggle a little bit just because they still will be a young team. That's going to be interesting. Tyler Shuck, how will he do at quarterback? That's going to really, I think, have a big influence on how good this team is. But the roster is there. They've got talent, and they could surprise. Watch out for Oregon. Number 14 is Florida, a team that I'm having a hard time figuring out. Kyle Trask going to be gone. Kyle Pitt's gone. Kadarius Toney. I mean, they're losing a lot of talent off of that offense, a defense that wasn't great last year. It's easy to say that Florida could drop way off, but I think Dan Mullen is a good enough coach that he's going to have this team in the top 25 again this year. Probably not going to really contend in the SEC East, which I think right now Georgia is the clear favorite there. But Emory Jones, how will he play for Florida? That's going to be a big key. We're talking about the quarterbacks for Florida and Oregon. That's going to determine a lot about these two teams because they both got a lot of young talent. Wisconsin at number 13. I kind of go back to the beginning of the year and what we saw from this team. We saw their potential. Graham Mertz will be back. Hopefully they can stay healthy at wide receiver. And if they can do that and build off of some young players from this past year, Wisconsin probably the favorite in the Big Ten West. I've got them at number 13. Indiana at number 12. I know they didn't play great against Ole Miss in their bowl game, but Penix will be back at quarterback. One of their top receivers is going to be back. And Tom Allen, I think, is just an excellent coach, and I think he's proven that. I think Indiana, right now, probably the second best team in the Big Ten East. Watch out for Penn State. Michigan, are they going to get it turned around? That's going to be an interesting division. But I think Indiana has a chance to be right back there at number 2. And then Texas A&M at number 11. Some people think this team's going to be right back where they were last year. I disagree. Kellen Mond is gone. They lose 4 starters, potentially on the offensive line, some key guys on defense. They've recruited well. They've got talent. Jimbo's a good coach. They're going to be good, but I don't know if they're going to be playoff good. I think maybe they take a little bit of a step back. But I think he's built this program to where they're going to be a top 15 team every year, but he hasn't built them to where they're going to be a top 5 team every year, like Alabama, like Clemson. This is going to be a big year to see exactly where this program is. But again, I'm a little hesitant on the Aggies. Let's go to the top 10 now. I've got LSU at number 10. This is going to surprise some people, but when I look at this team and this roster and what they have coming back, a defense that should be much better. You're talking about 2 of the best cornerbacks in the country. Linebackers are going to be an issue for them, but the defensive line should be really strong. If they can get that linebacker spot shored up, this should be a really good team on defense, much improved. And on the offensive side of the ball, I think Miles Brennan staying healthy is going to be the key. They've got talent. The offensive line is going to be back. They've got some good receivers, good running backs. This is a good team, and I think they bounce back. They really showed at the end of the year what they are capable of. And again, we're going to be one of the more experienced teams actually in the SEC after being probably the most inexperienced team this past year. Watch out for LSU. This could be a dangerous team in 2020. Notre Dame at number 9. Some key losses on the offensive line. Of course, losing Ian Book, but Kyron Williams will be back at running back. You're also going to bring in Jack Cohn, the transfer from Wisconsin, at quarterback. It's a team that should be good, but I think they're going to be really the same thing we've seen for the last several years. They're going to be a good, solid team, but they're just not a team that can compete with those top teams, those top-tier teams. And that's just kind of the way I see Notre Dame until they kind of change up their offense or get some better, get more explosive on that side of the ball. Until they can do that, I don't see them competing with the Alabamas and the Clemsons. Number 8 is North Carolina. Tar Heels come in off of a big win over Texas, or a big finish to the season. They didn't win. It feels like they won almost against Texas A&M. That's why I say that. But they really impressed me in that game. Even though they didn't win it, that defensive performance was very impressive. It's a very young defense, and as they continue to grow there and get better with the offense that we know they're going to have with Sam Howell back, and I know they lost some talented players on that offense, but they've got enough coming back to where North Carolina, I think, is the team that could potentially challenge Clemson in the ACC. I thought that last year. I thought they would maybe get to the ACC championship. It came up just short. Of course, Notre Dame coming in the ACC probably kind of messed that up. But if Notre Dame was not there, we probably would have seen North Carolina and Clemson in the ACC championship. And again, I think it's going to be a very good team. Iowa State at number 7. Lose their top rushers. That's going to be big. But Purdy is back at quarterback. Kohler, the tight end, I think announced he's coming back. It's going to be a strong defense. This is a very good Iowa State team. I think they are the team that can maybe challenge Oklahoma again in the Big 12. I've got them at number 7. And then I have Cincinnati at number 6. I think they really proved against Georgia that they can play with the top teams in college football. Desmond Ridder is back. They have some other guys coming back that already announced. So I think Cincinnati's going to be a dangerous team once again. They've got some big non-conference games that could actually, if they win them, get them into the college football playoff more than likely. Can they run the table? I think Indiana and Notre Dame are the two teams maybe that they play. I'm not 100% sure on that. I haven't really started digging into the schedules yet. But watch out for Cincinnati. Cincinnati has the schedule, I think, to where if they do go undefeated, they're going to have a really good shot to actually make it into the college football playoff this year. And then we go to the top 5. At number 5, it's Ohio State. All about the quarterback. Justin Fields is gone. They've got some very talented young quarterbacks on the roster. What will they get out of them? That's going to determine their success. If they get good quarterback play, they'll win the Big Ten once again because they're just clearly the most talented roster, and they're really talented everywhere else. Georgia at number 4. Actually, I had them at number 3 at one point when I was trying to figure this out, ahead of Alabama. But they lost some players on defense that I think it's going to hurt them a little bit, and because of that, I bumped them down to number 4. But JT Daniels will be back. The offense should be really, really good. Very talented at wide receiver. Watch for Georgia to make a run in the SEC. They might actually get it done this year. I'm telling you, this is going to be a good team. Alabama, though, at number 3. Kind of tough to figure out where to put Alabama. You know, you can look at how they finished the year and say this should be the number 1 team. But they are losing a lot. And I mean a lot. Offensive line losing a lot. Wide receivers, obviously losing Devontae Smith. We'll find out about Jalen Waddle. If Jalen Waddle comes back, I would put Alabama at number 2, but I'm thinking he's going to leave. Najee Harris will be gone. It's going to come down to Bryce Young at quarterback. Can he live up to the hype? I'm not one to just automatically assume a player is going to be great because of what their recruiting rating. It's just how I view these teams. Sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't. If he comes in and he plays like Tua or whatever, then Alabama's probably going to be right there at number 1 and number 2. But I need to see some things. They lose some key players. Alabama, for me, is at number 3 right now because I think Oklahoma is a very dangerous team coming into this year. Spencer Rattler is back. They're loaded at wide receiver. Good offensive line coming back. Defense is starting to get there. We're starting to see Oklahoma actually play really good defense. And that's all they've been missing. So I think the Sooners are a real playoff contender. They were maybe the 2nd or 3rd best team in the country at the end of the year this past season. And then Clemson for me is number 1. I know they haven't looked great their last 2 playoff games, but I really think Clemson is going to be the best team in the country this year. When you look at the defense and the guys that they have coming back, Kendrick, the cornerback, just announced he's coming back. Skalski's coming back. The defensive line is going to be one of the top defensive lines in the country. They're going to get better there. Offensive line returns a lot. You got so many talented players on offense. They had arguably their 3 most talented receivers not even playing down the stretch this past season. Justin Ross should be back. Latson back. Nagata back. These are 2 really talented kids. This is going to be a dangerous offense with a quarterback in DJ Uiagalelei, who has already had some experience, has already played in some big games, and because of that, because of maybe the chip on their shoulder going into this year, I think right now I have to put Clemson at number 1. Obviously, again, this is a very early top 25 poll. A lot is going to change. We're going to learn a lot more about these teams and who they have coming back, where these players are going to transfer. You know, Alabama could add a couple of huge big name transfers that could push them up to number 1. There are just so many things that we're going to learn over the next few weeks. It's fine if you want to criticize this poll. This poll deserves criticism because, again, it's too early. It's too early to do this. This is not going to be accurate, and that's why it's called a way too early top 25 poll. But I'd love to get your thoughts and know what you guys think, who you think maybe should be on this top 25 list. Who did I overrate? Who did I underrate? Again, give me your thoughts on this top 25, or maybe you want to give me your top 25. Go ahead and list your top 25 teams for your way too early top 25 poll for 2021. We're going to also give you some way too early playoff predictions as I start to look at the schedules and see maybe how this thing could go. I think last year, I was just looking at this. My way too early playoff predictions had Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, and Georgia. Georgia was the one team that I missed. So early on, we had a pretty good feel of how this was going to go. This year is a little bit different because of all of the decisions, all the players that can come back that normally, wouldn't be able to come back. So we will continue to evaluate these teams and give you all kinds of breakdowns coming up very, very soon. Thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports College Football Channel.